What if one of the world's greatest mysteries wasn't hidden in the sands of Egypt, but beneath the ice of Antarctica? Imagine a pyramid, not surrounded by desert, but by endless snowstorms, glaciers, and a land so inhospitable that almost no one can live there. This is the strange image that stunned the world when satellite photographs revealed a series of sharp, pyramid-like peaks jutting out of the frozen continent. In this journey, you will explore the evidence, from photographs and maps to geological explanations. Weigh the orthodox against the extraordinary, and decide for yourself whether Antarctica hides nothing more than natural wonders, or whether it guards the frozen remains of a forgotten world. And so, we will explore the origins of this mystery, the history of Antarctica itself, and the theories that swirl around these icy pyramids. Antarctica. Just the name conjures images of endless white plains, violent winds, and a silence so profound it feels alien. It is the coldest, driest, and most remote continent on Earth, a place where temperatures can plunge below -80 degrees Celsius, and where almost no permanent human life has ever taken root. Yet this land, seemingly lifeless, has drawn explorers, scientists, and dreamers for centuries, precisely because of its secrets. Covering an area nearly twice the size of Australia, Antarctica is 98% buried beneath ice, some of it over 4 kilometers thick. Beneath that frozen shield lies a world we barely understand. Hidden mountain ranges, vast subglacial lakes, and unknown landscapes sealed off from human eyes for millions of years. It is a continent where, even today, more remains unexplored than discovered. The modern story of Antarctica began only in the early 19th century, when explorers first glimpsed its frozen coasts. By the mid-20th century, the Antarctic Treaty of 1959 declared the land a zone of peace and science, strictly limiting human activity and banning territorial claims. This agreement ensured that the continent would remain largely untouched, but it also sparked suspicion. Why so much secrecy? Why so many restrictions? For those drawn to mysteries, it was as if the gates of the last hidden world had been locked. And then came the photographs, curious shapes jutting from the snow, triangular forms that looked eerily like pyramids. Geologists called them nunataks, mountain peaks poking through the ice. But to the human imagination, they were more than mountains. They were symbols, echoes of Egypt or Mesoamerica, places where pyramids had always marked centers of power and knowledge. The central question quickly emerged: are these Antarctic shapes the work of ice and erosion, or the remnants of something deliberately built? If Antarctica once had a different climate, could it have been home to a lost civilization whose traces are now frozen in time? To begin answering, we must examine the most immediate evidence, the satellite images and strange structures that first ignited the debate. In 2012, a series of satellite photographs began circulating online. They showed something startling in the Ellsworth Mountains, deep in Antarctica. A massive, snow-draped formation with 4 sharp sides converging to a pointed summit. To many observers, it looked less like a mountain and more like a giant pyramid, eerily resembling the Great Pyramid of Giza, but on a scale that dwarfed it. The image spread rapidly. Alternative researchers and enthusiasts claimed it was undeniable proof that Antarctica was once home to an ancient civilization. They argued that nature rarely produces such clean symmetry. The angles, the lines, the proportions seemed too precise to be the result of mere wind and ice. Some even overlaid the Antarctic structure with diagrams of Egyptian pyramids, claiming the resemblance was uncanny. Mainstream scientists, however, offered a more grounded explanation. According to geologists, these formations are nunataks, exposed mountain peaks poking through the ice sheet. Over millions of years, glaciers, and relentless winds have sculpted them into sharp, angular shapes. The pyramid-like outline, they say, is simply a coincidence of erosion. After all, mountains often form jagged edges, and with enough snow cover, almost any peak can appear geometric. Still, the comparison is hard to ignore. The Antarctic pyramid shares slope angles similar to those of Giza. Photographs taken from different perspectives sometimes enhance or weaken the effect, but the striking geometry continues to stir debate. If nature alone is responsible, it has created a shape that touches something deep in our symbolic imagination. Skeptics emphasize that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. No excavation has ever been done on these Antarctic structures, no artifacts uncovered, no human traces found. For now, the simplest explanation, that they are natural formations, holds the highest ground. And yet, the allure of a man-made pyramid in the most forbidden of landscapes keeps curiosity alive. To go deeper into the mystery, we must turn not only to modern images but also to the past, to ancient maps that appear to chart Antarctica centuries before explorers officially discovered it. Long before the age of satellites, the mystery of Antarctica appeared in a far older puzzle, ancient maps that seem to show the continent centuries before it was officially discovered. Among these, the most famous is the Piri Reis map of 1513. Drawn by an Ottoman admiral using older charts, this map is said to depict parts of South America and, intriguingly, what looks like an ice-free coastline of Antarctica. To the untrained eye, the resemblance is striking. The jagged outline at the bottom of the map appears to match Antarctica's northern coast, as if someone had charted the land before it was buried under ice. Even more curious is the Oronteus Finaeus map of 1531, which shows a southern continent with rivers and mountains uncannily aligned with features later identified beneath Antarctica's ice sheet. Orthodox historians and cartographers caution against jumping to conclusions. They argue that these maps are not evidence of advanced ancient knowledge, but rather examples of creative guesswork. Early map makers often stitched together fragments of coastlines from different sources, sometimes misplacing or distorting them in the process. What looks like Antarctica could simply be South America drawn incorrectly, stretched and mirrored across the page. In this view, the maps are remarkable, but not mysterious. Yet alternative theorists insist otherwise. They suggest that these maps are echoes of a lost source, a much older cartographic tradition, perhaps even remnants of a civilization with knowledge of the world before the last ice age. If true, it would imply that someone, thousands of years ago, saw Antarctica without its ice cover and passed that knowledge down through forgotten records. The link to Atlantis is almost inevitable. Plato's tale of a great island civilization, advanced and powerful, that sank beneath the sea around 12,000 years ago, fits neatly into the timeline of the last great ice age. Could Antarctica be the final resting place of Atlantis, its pyramids now trapped under kilometers of ice? It is a seductive theory, one that blends myth, history, and science into a narrative too grand to resist. Still, evidence is thin, and the scholarly world remains unconvinced. Most likely, the maps are distorted products of their time. Fascinating, but flawed. Yet for those who look at Antarctica with wonder, the possibility that these charts preserve the memory of an ancient world keeps the mystery alive. To understand why this idea has endured for so long, we must look at the human imagination itself and the enduring allure of lost civilizations. Why do so many people believe Antarctica might be the cradle of a forgotten civilization? The answer lies as much in myth as in science. Since Plato first told the story of Atlantis, a mighty island empire swallowed by the sea in a single day and night, generations have speculated about lost worlds and fallen cultures. Antarctica, vast and inaccessible, offers the perfect stage for these dreams. Supporters of the theory point to geological evidence suggesting Antarctica was not always the frozen wasteland we see today. Around 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, parts of the continent may have had a much milder climate. Ice core samples reveal shifts in temperature, while fossilized plant remains and evidence of past river systems suggest that Antarctica once supported greenery, lakes, and perhaps even animals. If humans had reached that land during a warm interlude, could they have built cities, maybe even pyramids, now sealed beneath the ice? Orthodox science cautions that there is no trace of such a civilization. Archaeology has uncovered no tools, no pottery, no bones, no ruins. Everything we know about early human migration shows that people spread through Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, but not Antarctica. The climate, even at its mildest, would have been challenging, and the timeline does not fit with known stages of human development. Yet the absence of evidence has not silenced speculation. Fringe theorists argue that the pyramids in Antarctica may not have been built by humans at all, but by beings far more advanced. This idea connects Antarctica to stories of extraterrestrial visitors, ancient astronauts who may have seeded knowledge across the globe. They point out that pyramids appear on multiple continents, Egypt, Mesoamerica, China, and ask, could Antarctica have been part of a global network, a forgotten hub of knowledge? For most scholars, this is pure imagination. The alignment of pyramids across the world can be explained by practical reasons. Pyramids are stable structures, easy to build tall with primitive tools, and resistant to erosion. But to believers, the very recurrence of the pyramid form suggests a deeper connection, one that transcends culture and geography. At the heart of this debate is a simple human truth. We are drawn to mysteries. When faced with a barren, icy continent that few will ever see with their own eyes, it is natural to wonder if it hides more than ice and stone. The lost civilization theories, from Atlantis to aliens, reflect our desire for hidden histories and for the possibility that we do not yet know the full story of our past. But imagination alone cannot settle the question. To move closer to the truth, we must look at what modern science and exploration can actually tell us, and where its limits end. If Antarctica truly conceals extraordinary secrets, modern science should be the key to unlocking them. Yet here, the story becomes even more complicated. Since the mid-20th century, Antarctica has been governed under the Antarctic Treaty System, a landmark agreement signed in 1959 that bans military activity and reserves the continent for peaceful scientific research. More than 50 nations participate, conducting studies in geology, glaciology, biology, and climate science. But the very rules that protect the continent also restrict exploration. Digging, drilling, or excavating in sensitive areas is tightly controlled, making large-scale investigations of pyramid-like structures virtually impossible. Mainstream research presents a consistent picture. Satellite surveys, ground-penetrating radar, and ice core samples reveal that Antarctica's landscape is shaped by powerful natural forces, tectonics, glaciers, and erosion. The pyramid-like peaks are well explained as nunataks, remnants of ancient mountain ranges protruding through the ice. Far from being architectural marvels, they are simply the raw bones of the continent. And yet, whispers of secrecy persist. Conspiracy theories claim that governments and militaries know more than they reveal. Some point to Operation High Jump in 1946-47, a massive US naval expedition to Antarctica, suggesting that it was more than just training. Others argue that certain regions of the continent remain off-limits, not for environmental reasons, but to conceal hidden ruins or discoveries. While such claims lack verifiable evidence, the remoteness of Antarctica makes them difficult to dismiss entirely in the eyes of the public. Technology has deepened both knowledge and mystery. In recent decades, scientists have discovered subglacial lakes, vast hidden mountain chains like the Gamburtsev Range, and traces of ancient river systems buried under the ice. These findings prove that Antarctica still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. But so far, none of them confirm the existence of pyramids or ancient civilizations. The debate, then, rests on a fragile balance: hard scientific data on one side and tantalizing shapes, maps, and myths on the other. Each discovery sparks fresh hope for believers and firm rebuttals from experts. What remains constant is the sense that Antarctica is not finished surprising us. Before we can conclude, however, we must step back and examine the bigger picture. How do we judge the quality of evidence, and why do so many mysteries thrive in the absence of solid proof? Every great mystery teaches us not only about the past, but also about ourselves, how we search for meaning, how we interpret evidence, and how we fill the gaps in our knowledge. The Antarctic pyramid debate is no different. At its heart lies a tension between the allure of extraordinary claims and the caution demanded by science. Common mistakes are easy to spot. Satellite photographs can deceive. Shadows and angles often create shapes our minds interpret as deliberate, even when they are natural. Ancient maps, meanwhile, are prone to mistranslation, distortion, and exaggeration. The Piri, Reis, and Oronteus Finaeus charts may look convincing at a glance, but closer study shows how fragile such evidence can be. In the same way, bold claims about hidden ruins often rely on anecdotes, not peer-reviewed data. True evidence must meet clear standards. It should be primary, reproducible, and multidisciplinary, confirmed not only by one researcher but by geology, archaeology, history, and technology working together. Without this, speculation remains just that: fascinating but unproven. And yet, even without solid proof, the idea of pyramids in Antarctica has impact. It stirs the imagination, challenges conventional history, and reminds us that much of our planet remains unexplored. What would it mean if one day we did uncover traces of an ancient civilization beneath the ice? It would rewrite not only human history, but our understanding of climate, migration, and the resilience of culture. Looking to the future, the implications split into two paths. The optimistic scenario suggests that advances in satellite archaeology, artificial intelligence, and remote sensing may reveal astonishing truths, perhaps not lost pyramids, but unexpected insights into Earth's past. The cautious scenario warns us of the dangers of misinformation, how easily myths can be twisted into propaganda, or how wishful thinking can overshadow real discoveries. And so we arrive at the central question once more: is Antarctica hiding the ruins of a forgotten civilization? Or are we seeing patterns in ice and stone where none exist? The answer for now remains open. But that is the beauty of mysteries. They invite us to wonder, to debate, and to keep searching. What do you believe? Are the Antarctic pyramids evidence of humanity's lost past, or simply the artistry of nature? Share your thoughts, explore the possibilities, and join the conversation. Because in the end, the greatest discovery may not be what lies beneath the ice, but what it reveals about our endless hunger to understand the unknown.